The presidency has reacted to comments from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. It blames him for the current state of Nigeria's democracy. The presidency accused the former president of playing a role in how the country adopted the style of the democracy which it currently practices. Now, on Monday, former President Olusegun Obasanjo had said Western liberal democracy has not been a system of government in Africa because it was forced on the continent by the colonialists. He made the assertion in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, while delivering a keynote address at a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy for Africa, held at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library in the state capital. The former president said the Western style of democracy failed in Africa because it does not take into cognizance the view of the majority of the people. His views are coming at a time when judges overturned the victory of the Kano and Plateau state governors, insinuating that the decisions of the judiciary could supersede the votes of the majority.
We have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it, even when we know that it is not working for us. Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability, and its relevance today without reform.
Africa, more than any other Western democracy, has more diversity. We're extremely diverse. And that diversity is clearly affecting our practice. So when we come and start talking about preferring solutions, I wonder the nature of our diversity as it relates to the solutions that we may prefer.
I think we spend too much of our time when we promote liberal democracy in focusing on the processes rather than the development outcomes. And I think we need to also find a way to address that so that democracy can deliver.
Right. Joining us in the studio for this conversation are public affairs analysts Bola Oba and Oladendi Ario. Gentlemen, good morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Let me begin with you, Mr. Ario. Your perception of what former President Olusegun Obasanjo said with regards to our democracy. Of course, he has come under criticism being one of the beneficiaries of our democracy, and the other governors too are part of those who have benefited, or former governors are part of those who have benefited from our style of democracy. So now this statement coming from them is coming as something that some persons are not really happy with. But let's get your perception of what he said.
Thank you very much. General Obasanjo enjoyed 8 years of presidency and even pushed for an extra term.
Yeah.
Not a secret. Everybody knew it. As late as January this year, he was pushing for a candidate for presidential election. But just in November, not yet a year, Kayode Fayemi established the Center for Democracy and Development a long time ago, during the military era. And I was a subscriber to that center. It was somewhere in the Lupeju or Banikoro axis. Just last year, September, he became the head of Forum for Regions of Africa. Again, he contested the primaries under APC before he stepped down. He paid 100 million naira for form. Liye Limuke, all his life, he practiced law in UK, and then he's been a businessman. But of course, he had 8 years stint as governor in this same dispensation. And of course, he was pushing for Atiku during the last presidential election. Olagunsoye Oyinlola, another person whose speech was reported, was a military governor of a state before he became governor under the same dispensation, spent a full first term, and 3 years before he was thrown out by a judicial decision. Now, all of these characters, you want to ask yourself, after benefiting immensely from this system, you suddenly woke up and you are saying the system should be thrown away, water and baby. And I'm asking, at what point did they become born again? And even if they should become born again, I look at it as selective ethic. Perhaps because your candidates lost and somebody or another party won.
Why perhaps can't we see it in a different dimension?
I understand. I'm not
I
saying,
mean, we cannot throw away the baby and the bathwater.
By the time I finish my submission, you will understand.
Right.
And then suddenly, democracy hasn't been working. We've been in this since 1999. And they've had, Obasanjo, for example, there was a time he made sure he sent away all the opposition parties in the Southwest. Only Lagos was retained by opposition then. And there are so many ways. I remember he sent Fayose away and brought in an interim governor in Ekiti State. So many of these impunities that he injected into our democracy.
So they do not have the justification for
this. How do you think we are not idiots? We are intelligent people in Nigeria. And thank God, none of us here is a kid that will not understand the dictates of all of these things. If you must come and say democracy is not working, what alternatives are they offering us?
Afro-democracy.
What do you call Afro-democracy? I don't understand why people think they can just wake up and whatever dream they had, they want to lump it on all of us. This is intellectual malappropriation and should be rejected. It's fraudulent. And that's my position.
Let's get your position on this, what he has said. I don't know if you're on the same side of the fence with him or you see things differently.
On the 11th of November, 1947, a character well known in history called Winston Churchill says this about democracy. Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. Pseudo-intellectualism will not help us in Nigeria. Baba Obasanjo has caused enough problem for this country. Baba should retire in peace and go and sit down and be praying for Nigeria like the one is doing. Baba is a baggage on the neck of Nigeria. Somebody must be very frank with that elderly gentleman. Now, is Baba now agitating for a replication of what prevails in Eritrea, in Equatorial Guinea, in Angola, or in Cameroon, where somebody, one individual, has been the president or the leader of those countries for more than 3 decades. Oh, Baba wants us to go in the direction of Mali, Niger. In the last, you know why some of us don't take his messages quite, costly? Because he is a master of sending subliminal messages. Right. There must be a reason for a president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to make sure that whilst he was delivering a speech in Germany, he accentuated the fact that Nigeria should not be juxtaposed or compared with countries like Niger, Mali, where Obasanjo is the master of subliminal messages.
Right.
And to be honest with you, it is a subtle message to some people to truncate Look, nobody comes here to pretend that democracy is El Dorado.
Exactly.
Or we give Nigeria the venom. Some of us don't even believe in this form of democracy. We believe more in representational democracy. Because the difference is that look at the percentage of votes scored by the opposition parties in the last general elections. If we were not to be having first past the post, the kind of democracy where the winner takes it all, we will have a National Assembly now that will have a more pronounced percentage of members of Labour Party, members of the PDP, and yet the APC will still be the majority. Or some of us are agitating for that. But to just come out and say democracy is the problem. Baba, what is the solution, sir? Because God has so perfected it that in the history of Nigeria, you had the good fortune of being the leader of Nigeria in an autocracy, and you also had the good fortune of being the leader of Nigeria in a democracy. Baba, having used the two major sticks to beat this drum, and you are now saying this drum is not sounding well to your ears, give us the rhythm.
He's saying Afro-democracy.
Excuse me.
He did not expatiate.
An Afro-democracy will take us to Eritrea, where young persons are killed. Take us to Cameroon, where one person has been the leader of the country for almost 4 decades. Take us to Equatorial Guinea, where Obiang is. Will take us to, Afro-democracy may be a bunch of youngsters toppling a properly elected president who was changing the fortune of that country in Niger, ironically. And yet, because majority of Africans don't want their countries to go to war, those boys are now coasting home. They are now supposedly signing agreements with the insurgents and the criminal elements that are the main reason why people's lives are miserable. What has been the difference in Mali, in Guinea, in Niger, since all these boys came to power? Some of us were mature. We were quite matured when military governance was in Nigeria now. Right. What difference did they do? Compare the level with all the sclerosis of democracy. Yes. With all the sclerosis of democracy, at least the two of us were mature. We've been reading newspapers from around 1975
No, much earlier.
Look, I think it's about time we should be telling some Nigerians watching us this morning. Uyo was a village. People need to go and look at the pictures of Uyo in 1980s, 1990s, before democratic dispensation came. You want to go to Aka? The first elected governor of Anambra State. I had the good fortune of being flown from London to, when I was taken to his office in Oka, he was living in a Bodop, a Paco
house.
That was where he was functioning as a governor in Oka. Look, when we sit down sometimes, a set of people, and sometimes we should be telling ourselves the truth, a set of people who had 5 million mouths to their population every year. 5 million mouths we add to our population every year. An average South African produces, one South African worker produces what 3 Nigerian workers produce. The GDP of Nigeria is about the same with South Africa's. And our population is 3 times. Yes. More. That's South Africa. There are some.
Calm down.
All right. I understand. We need to quickly go on a break.
Oh my.
When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. And
unfortunately, it will be difficult. I will tell you why.
Why?
We were here when he got Fayose removed as governor.
Right.
On terms, on spurious accusations. On your state, they made it ungovernable. He pronounced Adedibu garrison commander in a democracy. He brought one military man again to come and manage the state. Ekiti. The same thing happened where Chris Ali had to go and be military administrator. All of these things happened in his time. Between then and now, when he's been out of this presidency, we've never had it again. Yeah, because people allow democracy to play. Like we said, it's not like we are where we should be. But the question is, it's not about democracy per se. Democracy came with a culture. The other day, I was listening to Mrs. Obama, and he said, while they were in the State House, they were paying for the food that they ate or gave out to visitors. The only thing they didn't pay for was the White House staff. But in Nigeria, and who began it anyway? Baba Obasanjo in 1999. Go and check the budget.
He brought about the culture we are seeing now.
Go and check the budget of the presidency, the State House, on feeding, entertainment, and all of that. If he had any interest or the people at heart, he had the golden chance to have stopped all of that. Security votes that the military injected into our system to favor themselves, because we didn't see the need for it, they carried it over. So much so that today, Osun, one of the poorest states in Nigeria, the governor came out to say that, look, I won't be taking this 600,000 naira. He called the people and told them, let's decide what to do with it. And I can tell you, if he keeps to his word, give Osun 2 more years, you will see the impact. That is 7.2 million naira per annum, which they will collect and will never account for. Who does that? And I don't have any issue if they had come and say, okay, let's try oligarchy or let's try monarchy or something. But you just can't sit somewhere and condemn the system we are running without giving us an alternative. It's not done anywhere. All of this they are doing is they want to create a substitute and make the country ungovernable. Because I tried to see what it was. Initially, I wasn't going to cook because I was angry. I mean, look at the people who have benefited immensely from Fayemi, Imoke, Oyolola. Oyolola was governor as a soldier and governor as a civilian. You now have the temerity, the audacity, the presence of mind to come out and say democracy is not working. So what else will work? Even in UK, that colonized us, they are practicing democracy. They still have monarchy infused into it. I wouldn't have minded if you are saying these are the alternatives. In everything that I've done in my life, if I will tell you what you are doing is not right, I will give you why it's not right, and I will give you alternatives. Are they now trying to put the country into a crisis or what? I watched a video this morning in Kaduna where terrorists were chasing policemen and they were running away. We still have a lot of problems on our hands. Instead of coming to sit down and provide solution. And in any case, all these characters, they have access to the presidency. So if they have anything to say, they could have exploited that channel rather than now coming to throw such a ball. We are trying to build the country. People are bringing ideas, and instead of coming to add value, we are now trying to create
expression.
Yeah, I mean, as much as your right to express yourself stops when it starts impinging on the peace of the Commonwealth. It's about us, not about individuals. It's about Nigeria. And we must at all times put that interest at heart.
Absolutely.
And if it was, look, all of this, the problems, we know our problems, and it's simply leadership. The framework that they are running today, he brought them in because he was the fourth president of our new democratic dispensation. And then what are the problems? Because there are no quality leaderships, what do we have? Bad roads across the country. Baba himself failed to control the road from Abeokuta to Sangota, which leads to his farm. Till today, going to Abeokuta through Ifo is hell. Quote me. The road from Ibadan to Abeokuta is also the same thing. And IBB,
but that doesn't mean success.
And IBB will have done that road.
What he did not do.
Exactly. Now, the endemic corruption that we're having to deal with now took a new life during his tenure as president. We spent so much money on electricity. And what do we have? Darkness. The refineries came to naught during his period. Until today, none is working. And you are now saying, I mean, tell me where all this, the rain has been beating us since all these people are in power. And of course, they brought clueless educational policies. Stop teaching of history. Whereby people won't know where they are coming from. And if you don't know where you are coming from, you probably will not know where you are. And you can't plot where you are going. I mean, these are part of the problems that you people brought on us. And of course, the worst thing was that they weaponized poverty.
Right.
So much that an average Nigerian now is so concerned with what am I going to eat. And at that point, they have strengthened the staying power of the elites. Because you can no longer think of the lofty issues. Rather, you are concerned with sustainability, existential living, survival. I didn't come with my car today. Why? Because I couldn't afford to fuel my car and start driving myself down here. They brought this in about, if while it was there, they repaired refineries, or at least we told them, let's go for regional modular refineries. Each of the regions will have had a refinery, and Lagos will have had two. Because of the crowd of vehicles in Lagos. They didn't do any of these things and do not think.
So it's not just about them. It's
no.
Successive governments. It's
and then you brought the architecture and then they keyed into it.
That was why I said they could have deviated a bit.
Let's go to Kano. Let's go to Kano. Let's go to Plateau.
To Zamfara.
Zamfara. Let's go there.
Okay.
At least they mentioned those states.
Yes.
At this juncture, the subsisting judgment now is that of the Court of Appeal. All those cases are on appeal.
Yes.
So the fat lady is here to sing. And I would want to believe that an elder statesman of Obasanjo's stature, knowing the architecture of our judiciary, should at least have waited for the Supreme Court to pronounce.
Exactly.
But since Baba Obasanjo has made his own, given his own judgment, maybe it's about time we did a review, a cursory review of the reasonings given by the Court of Appeal on those. In Kano, somebody came into a party, having been frustrated from one political party. He wanted his way in one major political party. Somebody bigger than him in that political party, or somebody who had much more money than him in that political party, frustrated him. And he decided he went to some of these park and ride parties. We know many of these parties are park and ride parties.
No.
So when he
cut and paste.
when he took over that park and ride party, as the all in all, he forgot something about the fact that parties do have membership lists.
Exactly.
And that in that membership list, the name of the person that the party ought to put forward as the candidate of that party for a strategic office like that of a governor must be on that membership list. For God's sake, in evidence before the court, tribunal and the Court of Appeal, the name of the governor of Kano State is not on the membership list of the NNPP. So, politicians, what Baba Obasanjo is saying now is that megalomaniacal politicians must be rewarded for disrespecting simple rules of engagement.
Exactly.
That's in Plateau, at least with the reasoning of the Court of Appeal. Yes. You see, our judiciary, they've run our senior judicial benchers. They've run themselves into this
quagmire.
Into this quagmire. They have to manage it themselves. But sometimes I really empathize with them. You know what? In the case of Plateau, you purportedly did congresses in the local government. 5
out of 17.
You purportedly did congresses. And some of your members said you did not do those congresses right. A court of competent jurisdiction said, go and do those congresses in a manner that will be consistent with the law, Electoral Act, which speaks to the respect for your members. you went to do 5 out of 11. You see, in a way, this judgment is painful to some of us because it's giving the impression that the APC, which is not for me an ideal party, that the APC is seemingly going to have an advantage. But I'm sitting there and thinking, you know what? What is the difference between 6 and half a dozen?
I wonder.
Kenyatta. You know what? Sorry, I think in Yoruba. What is the difference between 6 and half a dozen?
Is it about the party or about the beneficiaries from all of this process? It's talking about even the parties that are meant to do their homework, not doing what it's necessary.
It is about the negative political culture.
God bless you.
Across all the parties and the political class. And that is why some of us, why don't we have independent candidature?
Exactly.
So that some of us who are so
I
appalled,
have contested.
some of us who are so appalled with
You
this.
had an experience.
Yeah, I mean, you remember?
No, they will
in
most
Abeokuta, I wanted to be councillor, not chairman. They hold me with my education, my experience and exposure. I wanted to be councillor. By the time they went to my mom in my absence, finished all the soft drinks in her shop, right? So they came to greet Mama Honorable. What was honorable about that? I had to settle that bill when I went back. By the time they came again, they brought a list that should pay some money to some ward chairmen. And I asked them, I'm based in Lagos. From Lagos, I run around the world looking for money. You mean I will now bring my hard-earned money to feed some local political talks or what? That was how they pushed me out. Let me not tell you who took my place. And then you now say
You, for an average Nigerian political hegemon, you are too educated, you are too opinionated, you are too exposed, you are too sophisticated. So you know what? You look at the kind of characters they groom. Look at the kind of characters they oft groom.
You remember?
So I'm sitting here now, I'm thinking, oh, who started it? Oh, knock your head, Bola. Who started it? Who was the master of somebody winning at all costs? Look, I was flown in from London. I was still living in London there. I was flown in from London to interview candidate Umar Yar'Adua.
Right.
Maybe I should remind you, Benga Daniel, as a first-time governor, Baba went to his house. They were eating together. Baba was feeding Benga with meat. The video was saved. And I was like, why all of these things? At the end of the day, he did everything, both humanly and inhumanly possible, to make sure Daniel won't have a second term.
Right.
But the people said no, and Daniel had a second term. All of these things are there. You must understand that Nigeria has never, and I'm saying this with authority, without fear, we have never been blessed, sir.
Let me add to that, please. I was not told this. I sat before Yar'Adua in Bauchi State Government House as a functioning journalist. And I looked at the man, it was obvious to me. I was not God. I was not God. I was not a
prophet. Or a prophet.
I could see a man who could
be
the last 4 years.
Right.
And you know what? God bless his soul. God bless his soul. God bless his soul again. As a journalist coming from the West, given what I'd seen in BBC, I was pushed to ask him that, sir, you may not know that there is a whispering campaign that you may not last 4 years. That man in humility did something that will forever arrest me. He pulled his babariga, showed me a large lump of human skin. He said, yes, I'm a sick man, and that I had an accident. Look at it. And that I was hospitalized once, but I'm still campaigning. And you are interviewing me. But you know what? Unfortunately, that man couldn't last 4 years. But somebody knew that man
of course, was very sick.
The situation he was, and he foisted him on Nigeria. And he was lying to Nigerians. And he was saying, Umaru.
During the campaign.
He said, you are sick.
Are you sick?
The man who was on a hospital bed, are you sick? The same man is now lecturing us about democracy.
Democracy.
But should we necessarily throw away the message?
No, wait, now listen.
Because of the message.
Now let's come there. Our problem is basically leadership problem. It is leadership that gathered our Commonwealth together, squandered, gave one Aneni billions of naira to go and make Benin or a road, and nothing was done. And the man went with the money. It is leadership that expended trillions of naira on electricity, which at the end of the day, darkness was what we got. The same leadership is responsible for continuously ruining Nigeria instead of running Nigeria. This country deserves to be run for growth and development. Right. Unfortunately, what we have, if I'm to describe it, I will call it dealership. They are dealing with Nigerians, they are dealing with our economy, they are dealing with even our mental state. Now you want to ask yourself, what am I benefiting as a Nigerian? Those of us who had the chance of going to school outside Nigeria and said, we must go back home. Am I happier? No. If I have a chance, if I can rewind the hand of the clock, I would have stayed away. Yeah, even now, occasionally, when things get rough, you still ask yourself, but at my age, where am I going to? If we sit here and we don't get up in good time, I will be 70. So you cannot now run us through these things rather than addressing the problem of corruption. Baba brought EFCC. EFCC became a hunting dog for opposition. I'm not saying what you don't know. And you can go on and on. Right. A lot of things that are issues. We know our problems. When they say INEC, which INEC? The political class helps to corrupt INEC. They are the ones that want to be there at all costs.
Look at the selection.
They will now go. They will now, the boys working with INEC, they will offer them humongous sums of money, and those boys, they lose their sense of responsibility and they tag along with them. And I said it. How many people are in jail today for electoral malpractices? We should have a large number. But what happened? They will do whatever they have to do. I told you before that in Nigeria, we prepare for election as if preparing for war. They will do whatever, break bones, kill people to get to office. And then we'll be celebrating them. For how long? Since 1999, let anybody come and tell me that his or her life today is better than what it was in 1999.
So let's now proffer solutions.
So much money has been brought in, nothing can be seen to have been done.
He did not do right. We have a government in power now, so what can they do differently?
I was laughing yesterday, a solution, direction to go, solution. I was laughing yesterday when the two big parties in the upper chamber of the National Assembly connived to rob the Labour Party. You know what? They spoke up. These were people who forgot to speak up when the ruling party was choosing partisan members to be INEC commissioners.
Yes.
They forgot to speak up when 160-something million naira vehicles were being bought for members of that chamber, for which they are beneficiaries. But suddenly, when they robbed them, when the two biggest parties, look, at this juncture, Bola Oba will say, we need representational democracy.
How do you mean?
One of the reasons why people are getting in every cycle of our election apathetic about going out to vote is that they feel their votes don't count.
Does it count?
Let's even be honest with ourselves. The cumulative number of votes that have elected all the officers of state now is about 30% of the number of
registered voters.
Yes,
eligible voters.
Now, imagine that if every voter casts his or her vote, and the lump sum of the total votes cast for a particular party instructs the number of the members of that party that will go to the National Assembly or to the State House of Assembly, we will not be in a situation where somebody who barely got, say, 2 votes above 3 other persons who cumulatively had look, the votes wasted by Atiku Abubakar, Obi, and Kwankwaso cumulatively put together is almost twice the votes of the incumbent president.
Yeah.
In a state with in a polity with representational democracy, that would never happen. Because you know what? We will likely be having a parliamentary system of government, and all the votes cast would have been reflected in the membership of the parliament. He may eventually emerge, because his party, had the highest number of votes. He may eventually emerge as the prime minister, but he will know that strategically, you know what? Look at what has just happened in Spain. This thing is not peculiar to Nigeria. In Spain, a man who had boasted that all the Catalonian independence seekers would die in jail has now formed a coalition with some of the Catalonian parties and has agreed to, you see, in 2024, democracy will further be stressed. We know from Britain to Bangladesh, from India to Indonesia, we know that democracy, look at what is happening in America. A character like Trump, at least one can safely call Trump a convict now, because there are 1 or 2 convictions now against him. Yes. But he may likely emerge as the candidate of the Republican Party. So I am not sitting there saying democracy is a divine form of governance. And I quoted to you a speech on the 11th of November, 1947, given by Winston Churchill. Yes. But it is still far better than subjecting us to what a president of Nigeria wanted to trick Nigerians to do when they were using Akpodo to carry money, to go and give money to senators and members of the National Assembly so that they can elongate his term, so that it will send us in the direction of Cameroon, of Angola, Equatorial Guinea, of Eritrea. Thank you. Your advice is well taken, sir. But thank you, not from you.
Thank you, no thanks.
Right, let's
Moving
get your
forward.
percent. Yes.
Moving forward. Yes. Number 1, we have to revamp EFCC. Yeah, because today there are people in the National Assembly who have cases pending with the EFCC. Then the environment of no consequence that they have created, whereby you can do virtually anything and get away with it. The other day, they said a senator shot somebody during an electioneering. Nothing happened. The man is sitting there comfortably, pretending to be making laws for us. Number 3, when we say budget and budget and budget, in those days, budget of hope, budget of this, the hope became hopelessness. We should stop the current system of budgeting, whereby they will say, last year we spent 4 million on photocopier. What do? Add 20%. You know, waste in governance is very massive. Waste. They buy photocopier every year. They buy laptop every year. And these are not consumables. No. Your laptop can't be less than 5 years. Mine is over 5, and they're still working. What happens in government circles? That they must buy laptop every year, buy photocopier every year, buy fridge everywhere. Why? People want to line their pockets with our money. Now, this is the country where we prepare budget. That's what I mean. The executive who brings in the resources, who knows how much we are going to make, and submit to the National Assembly. And in their wisdom, they will inflate the budget. Yet, it started during Obasanjo's era. It will be allowed to go. They pad national budget, and it's allowed to go. So what we are having from head to bottom is a band of non-committed people taking charge of our affairs.
Why are they afraid of independent candidates?
Exactly. Our worst 11 are managing our best 11. And there is nowhere in the world where that happens and then they progress. We are wasting time. I'm just hoping that the new government, if it will be possible, we begin to change the dimension. I still want to know how much Emefiele spent printing new notes. Right. Whereas today, what you get from ATM, from the banks everywhere, even PS operator, are the old notes. What happened to the money?
Perhaps the investigation put together that has the report is said to be being transferred to the presidency. We hope we'll get an insight
Nobody can tell you how much money they recover from Abacha and how the money was spent. These are part of the problem.
Is still being asked.
Yes, these are part of the problem. Right. We can go on and on and on. Right. Unless we are ready to allow the rule of law, the spirit of the law, to take charge. Okay. Whereby if you run foul of any law, you go. If you can, America will tell you if you can do the crime, you must do the time.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen. Bola Oba, Olade Ndi Ariyo.